The Eibach Pro Street Coilover Kit is available for any 2011 to 2014 GT or V6 Mustang owner who's looking to go one step farther than a regular set of springs, but wants a bigger suspension upgrade with a wider range of height adjustability from arguably the best street setup available. This kit offers quick adjustable ride height with pre-tuned dampers straight out of the box. The installation requires a little bit of mechanical know-how and the right tools, but it's still very doable at home, so I'm giving it 2 out of 3 wrenches on our difficulty meter, which I'll talk more about later on. Typically, if you're a Mustang owner looking to simply lower your car for looks, a basic set of lowering springs would do the trick, depending on how much you want to drop the height. A coilover set like this is, however, geared for a GT or V6 owner who wants to get more out of the ride. It'll give you the ability to lower your car anywhere from 1 inch to 2.4 inches in both the front and the rear, which makes this one of the biggest drops you can get for your Mustang without going to a full airlift suspension setup. The aggressive stance with the coilovers is very hard to beat in my personal opinion, so this is really just one of the most optimal setups. Lowering your Mustang not only looks good though, it's got some huge functional benefits as well. Anytime you lower the center of gravity, especially with a more drastic drop like this, you immediately improve your handling and cornering performance, picking up a sportier feel. They reduce excessive squatting during acceleration, body roll during hard turns, and nosedive during hard braking, all of which are noticeable right from the start with these installed. The spring rate also comes into play, and they are a progressive spring rate, so they're perfect for the daily driver or even the weekend warrior. Basically, the progressive spring rate will stay pretty comfortable during normal driving conditions and will stiffen up under more stress, like taking turns harder or quicker. Linear, on the other hand, would stay consistent at all times, making them more predictable for track use. The springs are wrapped around a preset damper that is made specifically to work with this spring and particular spring rate to give you the best possible driving experience for a top-of-the-line street suspension upgrade. Eibach incorporates their Formula One technology, which by default means these will also prove to be pretty useful at the track as well. They include stainless steel monotube shocks with 46mm damping pistons and a spherical upper bushing mount. They are corner weight adjustable as well to improve and fine-tune your cornering abilities while being able to set them to your own personal preference, which is done right at the top of the shocks and struts. There are other coilover packages available, like from SR Performance and ST for example. The Eibach one is the most expensive option simply because it offers the best street and track optimized setup. They offer a firmer spring rate, while other options offer adjustability, just not as fine-tuned as these. The SR Performance has one thing that the Eibachs do not: strut mounts. Now, this kit reuses your factory ones while SR Performance has theirs pre-assembled with the new ones. I personally would take the better tuned kit with no mounts over the pre-assembled entry-level kit from SR, simply because these are going to perform a little better. Now listen, these are easily one of the best street options on the market, as I mentioned before, so you'll be spending a good amount for the kit you see here, but definitely getting your money's worth tenfold in my personal opinion. For everything you see here, expect to be spending just under the $1,500 mark. The traction and handling characteristics alone will be enough to actually make this thing very beneficial, and the adjustable drop on top of that feels like icing on the cake. Eibach did a really killer job on this one in my opinion, and there's a bunch of customer submitted photos on the product page so you can see what it looks like on the different styles that the kit owners have put together. The installation again is a bit more involved than a direct bolt-on, but it's not the worst thing in the world. I'm still giving it 2 out of 3 wrenches on our difficulty meter. You want to have the right tools on deck as well as a little bit of mechanical expertise. If not, then a helping hand on deck will definitely go a long way. As far as tools go, you'll need a spring compressor on deck as well as a full ratchet and socket set and a jack and jack stands, but a lift would definitely make things a little easier for you. Overall, it'll take about 3 or 4 hours or so depending on your experience with this kind of install. The first thing you want to do is get the Mustang in the air and support it on jack stands or a lift if you have access to one. Remove the front wheels, pop the hood, and remove the nuts at the top of the strut tower. A tip here is I'd suggest leaving one of the nuts still on but a little loosened so that once you unbolt the strut from the bottom, it doesn't just fall out. From here you want to unclip the ABS lines from the side of the strut and the spindle, which can be done using a panel removal tool or just some good old-fashioned elbow grease. Remove the sway bar and link from the strut next by holding onto it from the back with a wrench and removing the nut from the front with a ratchet and socket. Next, you want to get the brake assembly out of the way by removing the caliper and bracket bolts holding it on from the back. Once those are out, prop the caliper up and out of the way without it hanging down on the lines. I'd recommend maybe hanging it from a wire hanger. Pull the rotor off to gain better access to the bottom strut bolts. You can then loosen the 2 nuts on those 2 bolts, but I would suggest leaving them on a little and using a mallet or a hammer to bang them loose since they're probably rusted on a little bit. at which point you can remove the nuts by hand and pull out the bolts. Now that the strut is loose, you can hold onto it in the wheel well and remove the remaining nut from the top of the strut tower and pull the whole assembly away from the car. Now this is where the spring compressor comes into play. This can be pretty dangerous if it's not done correctly, so you want to make sure you're using extra caution. You want to connect the spring compressor to the top and bottom coils on the spring and compress it. Be sure it's really secured on there because while under so much pressure, the spring can shoot out if it's not done right, which can cause some damage. From here, you can remove the top nut from the strut mount, then slowly, and I mean very slowly, decompress the spring to relieve the tension. Transfer over the top strut mount to the new Eibach assembly with the spring over the strut, then tighten down the top nut. From here, you can actually turn the spring sleeve using the proper tool to the ride height you'd like. This can be readjusted later. You can now put the strut back into the car and tighten down the top strut tower nuts. Reconnect the bottom 2 bolts to the spindle and torque them down. Put the rotor back into place, then the caliper, and then bolt it down to the bracket. Replace the sway bar end link to the side of the strut and tighten down the nut to the end link, then reclip the ABS lines into place. Repeat this entire process for the opposite side of the front, then you can move on to the rear. The rears will start off the same way, by removing the wheels once the car is in the air and supported on jack stands or a lift. You want to place your jack stand underneath the rear lower control arm and jack it up slightly, supporting the weight. From here, you can remove the bolts holding on the sway bar end link and jack up the rear end by the differential housing or pumpkin to support the weight and remove the tension from the spring. Unbolt the shock from the bottom and slowly lower the jack down to decompress the spring. And just like the front, this can be potentially pretty dangerous, so you want to make sure you're using caution to ease the tension off of that spring. Once it's completely decompressed, you can remove it from the suspension and replace it with the new Eibach spring and isolator. The bump stop can also be removed and replaced at this point. Remove the top shock nut and pull the shock out of position. Put the new Eibach shock into place and bolt down up inside the trunk. Then at the bottom, once you raise the rear end up to match the holes. Once they're bolted down and the sway bar is reconnected, you're good to go. Well, that just about does it for me. So if you're the owner of a 2011 to 2014 GT or V6 Mustang, you might want to check out the Eibach Pro Street Coilover Kit, which you can find right here at AmericanMuscle.com.